at the Air Force Museum. Excited? Oh yes. And if you want to visit this place, it's in Linköping, outside Linköping, Malmslätt. And if you want to fly the simulator, you can also book it via Flygvapen Museum webpage. This will be a guided tour, and I strongly recommend to visit this place. This is a Focke-Wulf FW-44J Stieglitz. It was very common in the Air Force, Swedish Air Force, and later many of them were donated to or sold for just about nothing, sold to aero clubs in Sweden, and then they towed gliders. And a friend of mine owns one of them. They were licensed manufactured in Västerås, yeah. And this one is familiar for me. I have around 120, 130 flight hours in the Saab Zafir. This is a B version, a 3-seater with a fuel tank behind the left pilot. This was delivered in 1953, so it's pretty close to the plane that we have in Ljungbyhed. It has a serial number 37 in Ljungbyhed. I suppose this is number 46, yeah, so it's a little later. You can watch the videos when I fly the Saab Zafir in Ljungbyhed doing aerobatics. And here we have the Italian, yeah, Reggiane RE2000 Falco. And you can clearly see that how it was inspired from the Sverska Republic. 60 examples were bought from Italy on this one. And here we have one of my favorite planes. It's a J21. This one has got a jet engine. It was converted from a propeller plane to a jet plane. Let's check the propeller plane first. This one had a Daimler-Benz DB605 engine, pusher propeller. There was one plane in the US which were not mass-produced, but this one was mass-produced in Sweden. Plenty of guns or cannons forward, good visibility, tricycle landing gear, cooling problems, and it's a very interesting plane. This one has a F6 marking. It has flown in at the F6 Karlsborg. That was my air base when I was in the Swedish Air Force. And if you look at this one and then think of how they converted it to a jet plane, pretty impressive. I've read that only 2 propeller plane has ever been converted to jet planes. Interestingly enough, the Mustang has a laminar flow air profile on the wing, but this actually also have a laminar flow profile. Laminar flow means that the boundary layer has laminar flow on a large part of the wing, which gives less drag and of course better performance, better range and everything. Harvard SK-16 in the Swedish Air Force was a trainer, advanced trainer at Ljungbyhed, and then they were displaced to a number of air bases, so pilots could have them for flight training. Unfortunately, I was not in the Air Force at that time, so I had never a chance to fly it. I'm not so old, but a few of them are still flying. The Caproni, bought from Italy. I think it's not a real plane, it's a replica or advanced mock-up. Anyway, It's a nice build. Swedish Air Force had 84 Capronis. There were lots of problems with them because the wing spar was made of wood, and yeah, many people died in this one. And here is a Swedish twin-engine bomber. And this was, I think, recovered from under the water in Härnösand. The later versions had the Daimler-Benz engine. This one was picked up and completely restored at the museum. Very interesting plane. There was a lot of focus on the bombers, possibly inspired by Germany at the time of at least the first part of the Second World War. And then they realized that fighters were, well, equally important. This was a bomber, and it was also used as a reconnaissance plane and torpedo plane. Junkers Ju-86. There were a couple of them in the Swedish Air Force. Designation B3 in the Swedish Air Force. Sparman S1 from 1937. And a B-17, which was Saab's first own constructed airplane. And this is a J22, a kind of emergency plane with the Pratt & Whitney twin Wasp engine, built at Bromma, at Aba's hangar in Bromma. I just read a book about this plane. It was engineer Bo Lundberg, he was designing this plane, and it was made of wood panels with welded steel beam and a steel structure in the fuselage. Very interesting plane. For the power it had in the engine, it had good performance. It's a small plane. They were mostly replaced when Sweden got Mustangs and newer planes. Fiesler Storch, bought from Germany. And this is a Gloucester Gladiator J8 in Sweden. Outdated at the beginning of the Second World War, but Sweden had them. This obviously was flown in Finland. Yeah, 12 Gladiators were used in Finland. It was in the Finnish Winter War towards Soviet Union. Now we are in the more modern part of the museum. Saab Gripen, a Maverick missile, the Viggen. I have around 600-700 hours on the Viggen. Easy to fly, very good low speed handling, but you had to have respect for the incredible acceleration. For every 100 kilometers per hour, it accelerated in less than 3 seconds, and the faster, the more speed, the better the acceleration was. An enormous afterburner with a fuel pump of 300 horsepower, 1 cubic meter of fuel per minute. Just incredible. Radar cross-section not so good, but the tactics was to fly low below the radar coverage. At that time it worked. Helicopter and Another helicopter, Boeing Vertol. This was doing lots of hard work in the 1980s when there were submarine incursions in the Swedish waters. I have been winched on a helicopter like this as a practice when I was in the Air Force. SK-60, a trainer Saab plane. It was recently retired as a trainer. Another helicopter, a Draken plane, Bloodhound, ground-to-air missile. I think Draken first flew in 1955. That was a very advanced plane for its time. And here we have a J-34 Hawker Hunter. Absolutely beautiful. Didn't have an afterburner, but it had very good turning performance, according to a friend of mine who flew it. There was some problems in the beginning because the shells from the gun went into the air intake, so they had to put some collectors down here. Then the problem was solved. Saab J21, J21, Catalina, used for rescuing pilots who had ejected from the planes. That was before they had helicopters. Percival Pembroke, which was in a deal when Sweden bought, I think it was Vampires or Hunters. Then Sweden had to buy this plane, this model, a MiG-15, which was the plane that shot down the DC-3. Let's try and find the DC-3. De Havilland Venom. Night Fighter. Reconnaissance Spitfire. With a Griffon engine. And Saab Lansen from Karlsborg. I have never flown the Lansen, unfortunately. This is an air-to-sea missile, RB-04, Robot 04. I've simulated many drops of the Robot 04. It was quite scary. You flew in 10 meters over the sea and really climbed, opened the radar, released the missile, and then pulled idle and made a turn with 6 Gs, and then full afterburner to get away. And that was with the Viggen plane. One early Gripen two-seater. The remains of the DC-3, which was shot down by Soviet MiG-15s. 4 or possibly 5 crew members were missing. The other ones were dead. It was picked up by a team where my friend Anders Jalai was participating. I recommend his books. They are very exciting. The 4 crew members missing, were they in a Soviet prison camp or not. I wonder if we ever will know. You could think of the families not knowing if their family members were alive or not. Or it was maybe an American on board also. Don't know. Sad story. War is terrible. Even if it's not a war, it's still a war in some way. You clearly can see the holes from the guns. Cold War story. They never saw their families again. I hope you found this video interesting. Press like and subscribe. Thank you.